All right, everybody, welcome back to another video from Skyhook Garage. Today we're going to be putting the left and right pannier on the 2020 Africa Twin Adventure Sport, and they look good. Man, they look good. I can't wait to get them out on the road and see how they feel. But before we get started with the install, I want to show you guys a couple things real quick with these. Now, once you get these on, there's a couple things that you got to look out for. Obviously, when you do the install on these, the video is going to describe everything you need. But one important note that I wanted to mention was these guys right here. You can see the green indicator right there and there. And what we'll do is, in order to get them on and off the bike, if it's not obvious already, you're going to have this little latch here. Now, if you don't have the lock cylinder in, and I'll describe that in another video, how to pin them properly and install them on the panniers. For the meantime, you're going to get these panniers without the lock cylinder, all right? And you'll need to either purchase that separately, or like I said with the top case video, it might very well come with the pannier. I ordered them all separately, and unfortunately, when I got the panniers individually, they each had a subsequent lock cylinder kit inside of them. So I ended up buying extra lock cylinder kits that I didn't need. But I definitely recommend buying them anyway, because Honda's website says that they do not come with the panniers, even though all three of mine did. I don't want you guys to buy the panniers thinking that, hey, mine might come with it, and then you'll be screwed anyway. But back to those green indicators. So this latch here, you're going to pull this latch to release the pannier. Just like the top pannier here, pull this latch here, and it releases it and allows the pannier to come off. Now, with the side ones, there's a green and red indicator. So these are where the latches bolt, the pannier clasps onto the top of the bracket here. So when you release, when you hit the release, you can see them turning to red, and when it's fully released, if it's fully released, there we go, and it comes off, they will be red. So as you install the pannier onto the bike, you're going to see them go from red to green. You want to make sure that they're green, and that tells you that they're fully clipped in and secured. All right, so let's get over to the bench. I'm going to show you exactly what's involved with the hardware and whatnot with the panniers, the brackets and all that stuff, and then I'm going to show you how to do the install on the bike. Okay, so in this kit here for the left and right pannier bracket stay, kit number 08L77-MKS-E00. All right, that's going to be the aluminum pannier bracket stay, whatever you want to call it. Okay, you're going to have two pannier brackets. 1, 2. All right, and then you're also going to have two cross tubes. All right, one is going to be shaped asymmetrically for the exhaust, and I'll show you that once we get back over to the bike. There is a specific orientation for it, and then you have the symmetrical one. So these two will go in between the left and right pannier stay bracket on the rear of the bike. All right. Then you're going to have the hardware associated with it. You're going to have the rubber collar pieces. These are going to go into the slots on the rear frame portion at the top of the bike. 4 short bolts for the cross pipes. You're going to have 4 nuts for the rear bracket stay. The cross ones that come across. These will be your screws and nuts here. All right, you got the longer bolts here for the top of the bracket that go through the plugs that are in the top tail section piece where the frame's at. Collar pieces for the exact spot for these bolts. They'll go through here. And then, of course, these bushings, as I said earlier, it'll be kind of something like this. And then the rear bracket will go over top of them. And again, I'll explain all this once we get back over to the bike. All right, you have your bumpers here. These are going to slide over the end of the passenger rear set bracket. You'll have a collar, kind of like the upper wind deflectors right here. Goes right in there, keeps you from crushing the rubber too much. And then you have 2 Allen head cap screws. These will be to keep those rubber bumpers I just had in my hand from coming back off of the bike. So the only other piece is this guy. It's a rubber tube bracket. This is going to slide over one of the center pieces that goes in between the two brackets, and that's going to be like an additional bumper for probably touching the tailpiece, I believe, but I'll show that more in detail once we get back over to the bike. So tools you're going to need a 10mm socket for the shorter and the longer bolts. All right, you'll need a 14mm socket for the nuts, and then you're also going to probably want a 10mm wrench to hold on to the ends of these guys as you're tightening the 14mm socket. For the Allen head cap screw bolts here, you'll need a 3mm Allen key, Allen wrench. Doesn't have to be super tight. Torque spec on everything, minus these short little guys, is going to be 20 foot-pounds. Handy dandy torque wrench. If you don't have one, just make sure it's good and tight. 20 foot-pounds isn't a lot, but you just want to make sure it's tighter and tight enough, but obviously don't go crazy with it. As far as the little screws here go, the torque spec is specifically 3.4 foot-pounds. I think it's completely unnecessary to use that. Just get it nice and snug with the Allen wrench. All right, let's head over to the bike and I'll get started on showing you what you need. One other tool, actually, I apologize, is a needle nose pair of pliers, and I'll show you that in a second once we get back over to the bike. All right, so real quick before we get the camera set up for the overall install, I wanted to show you where the needle nose pair of pliers are going to come in handy here. Now, the first step to doing these bracket stays are basically this cap right here. It's kind of hard to see, I apologize, but you'll see it on your bike. So there's probably a special Honda tool that you're going to have in order to get these screws right here. They're basically just dummy plug screws that are in there to get them out. So you can see the flats on either side. There's probably a special Honda tool that they use, but all you need is needle nose pair of pliers. You're going to kind of grab right in the middle there and just squeeze gently and try to get this guy twisted and out of there. So they're not super tight. Just give it a twist and they will unscrew out of those respective bolt screws that are in there. There you go. So they're threaded into the receiving nut cert that's already installed on the bike, and they're literally just a plastic plug. Now the plug doesn't have any threads on it, but the threads on the bike's nut cert will help you remove this. Okay, so step number one is after you have done the Christmas tree removal on the tail section here, and you now can gain access to those nut certs. All right, the first step is going to be installing the rubber stopper onto the end of the passenger rear set stay. Now, on the back side of this bracket here, you will see that there's a hole that's threaded in order to receive the Allen here, the Allen head cap screw. So you want to get that guy on there, the rubber on there. Then you're going to want the collar piece here. You're going to want that to face the shoulder, the small end of the shoulder to face inward. All right, and then Allen wrench is going to go through the screw and into the threaded portion of the rear set bracket. All right, next step is going to be the rubber bushings here. These bushings obviously can only go into the top of the tail section one way. You'll set them in there gently, both of them. Then the middle collar pieces will receive into them. And then you'll need your stay bracket. You're going to want to line up this slot on it. As you can see, this is the more square one. The one for the passenger side, or I should say the right side of the bike, is shaped a little bit differently. All right, you'll get it started over the little boot there, making sure not to damage the bike at all by hitting the bike with the bracket. All right, you'll get it loosely set up on there, and then start your bolts at the top. Now, you don't want to tighten anything on this bike fully, other than that little bumper on the rear passenger rear set. Everything that you put on the bike, you just want it to be relatively loose. That way it can move a little bit when you're lining everything else up. So we'll go over to the other side, get the other side put on, and then we'll move the camera to the back of the bike and show you how these side brackets hook on. Okay, so you have your two brackets here. This is going to be the upper one. This is going to be the lower one, all right, and the rubber bracket little tube collar piece I was showing you earlier, this guy right here, needs to go on the symmetrical pipe. Now, a little bit of soapy water on the pipe and a little bit of soapy water on the inside of this collar piece will assist you with getting it all the way to the very center of it. As you can see, with the way that the brackets are shaped on the bike, the wider one, the asymmetrical one, is going to be on the bottom, all right, and the symmetrical one's going to be up top. Now, with that being said, the orientation of these, obviously the curved portion is going to be facing the back of the bike, all right, and also the bottoms of the brackets have holes in them for water. If any water or moisture gets in these things, it'll be able to drain that way. So as long as the holes are down and the curved portion is faced to the back, you should be good with the installation of them. Now, the other thing is, on the ends of each of these side pieces, there's a tang here that receives into the tang on the left and right stay bracket. So there's really no way that you can install these incorrectly. So we'll start with the top one, and like I said, make sure you don't tighten anything before everything is installed. So you're going to need the short bolts, the nut, and the short bolt, all right? And we'll get started, go up underneath. All right, we'll do the same thing to the lower bracket. Again, like I said, holes at the bottom. There is no bushing on this one. It doesn't come close enough touching any parts of the bike. Now, my suggestion would be to bolt and tighten the brackets, because most of the weight for the panniers is going to be vertically. It's going to be top down. So my suggestion would be to first tighten the stay brackets to the top of the bike. All right, and we'll start that. As you can see, I didn't tell you guys about the extension, but obviously if you've done mechanical work before, you're going to realize that the rearward bolts here on the upper brackets are a little bit of a pain in the butt to get to. So let's grab the torque wrench and get those tightened. Torque wrench set to 20 foot-pounds. And as you're tightening everything, just make sure that everything seems to be lining up well. You don't want anything binding or getting jacked up when you're trying to tighten it. There we go. 3, and pop this guy off, since torque wrenches aren't great for long tightening. They're just good for the tight portion. All right. Now we need the 14 millimeter socket and the 10 millimeter wrench. Double check the other side as you're tightening one to make sure that it's still staying where it should, which it is. Don't have a whole lot of room on the exhaust side, getting one click at a time out of the torque wrench. The other one here. Yep, nice and tight. Do one more pass to make sure everything's good, and once that's all done, the brackets are installed. So let's get the panniers on here and see how they look. All right, so left side, just like the top pannier, you have little slots here that are going to grab the pins on the bottom of the brackets. Get them lined up first. Make sure they're seated properly. And then you're going to kind of put your body weight against it and just snap them into place. Always look for the green indicators like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. That'll tell you that it's all the way on there and it's on there securely. All right, guys, so that's about it for getting the panniers put onto the 2020 Africa Twin. Nothing super complicated about it. A couple nuts and bolts, a couple extra steps with the side brackets and whatnot, but for the most part, it's a pretty simple install. I don't really think you guys need a second hand to do this. Everything's pretty accessible and easy to do as an individual. So thanks for watching. If I don't have down below currently, I will shortly have the rear bracket stay and the top pannier to put on. Super simple. If you guys don't want to watch that video, it's just basically 4 bolts down through the top here. Bracket goes down on, and then there's some spacers that are down in here in between the bracket and the rear factory grab bar bracketry on the back of the bike. So super simple, easy to get to. Nuts are all down there. Very accessible. But I'll have that video posted, and also I will have the video for the pinning of the pannier lock cylinder here, which again, not too complicated, and the video should help you guys out with that. So again, thanks for watching, and until next time,